Welcome to Builds with Blocks, a show centered around the micro action figures and brick-based construction sets of the Halo universe. I'm your host, Colin Perkins, and I'm joined by Tom Fishenden.
Hello there.
Matt Salvatore.
Ahoy, ahoy.
Gabe Clem.
Were it so easy.
I was waiting for one of
Bravo,
those. And a very special guest, Kevin MCX from Mega Brands. Say hello, Kevin.
Hey, everyone.
Kevin is a lead product designer for multiple licenses at Mega Brands. Most importantly, the Halo line. We're ecstatic to have him on the show and looking forward to a fun conversation about what really goes on in set design. So we had Jan on earlier in our run earlier this year, and so we got a lot of like marketing insights and whatnot. But Kevin's going to give us some of the dirty details, the nitty gritty that we all want to know, that we all speculate because we don't know what we're talking about. We just have fun collecting and, just, imagining how cool it would be to have a job like Kevin, right? So it's going to be a fun conversation. Before we get into that, though, I do want to go make the rounds and see what we've been up to on the block front. I'm going to toss it over to, let's go with Gabe first.
Oh,
Hey. So block front wise, not a lot of development. Classes are still taking up most of my time. So I'm usually sitting on the computer in a meeting or I'm doing homework. But just yesterday, I did post the first of my two Halloween, if you will.
Yes.
My two Halloween Mega Construx figures. The Mark 7 with the magma skin is the one that I posted yesterday. It's actually, I just checked it this morning. That's my most successful post ever. That's absolutely exploded. People really enjoyed it, which made me pretty happy. But tomorrow I have a very, very interesting, well, by the time you're hearing this, it'll be like a week ago. But tomorrow I have a very cool flood figure that I just finished sculpting last night. So I'm painting it and it'll be up on the page tomorrow. But I'm just, working on some Halloween themed custom figures, and then I'll be back to the daily grind.
Do you ever do Christmas stuff or holiday themed stuff?
I did a Christmas custom minifigure 2 years ago. I don't think I managed to do one last year, but I'm thinking of some ideas, and it'll probably be something to do with Santa Claus, either painting somebody like Santa or sculpting something.
Can you do
Santa
a
Chief?
flooded Santa?
A flood Santa. I feel like there's a law about that somewhere.
Matt, what have you been up to?
Oh wait, I'm not gonna say it. I got. I was able to finally pick up the awesome marine gear pack, so I grabbed 3 of those. So I've been having a lot of fun customizing and changing variations with the Marines. So that's an awesome set, and I probably am gonna buy more because it's just that cool. So that's pretty much all I got on the block front.
All right, light couple weeks for you then. Tom, what have you been doing?
So I have shot a couple of Halloween themed photos.
Yeah.
I got one of Atriox that I was really happy with because I did a new thing in Photoshop where I tried to put an energy layer over the top of his mace. And I then masked it down so it was sitting over the area where the energy blades should be. So I was really happy with how that came together. And then beyond that, obviously, as people listening will have seen, I have been pumping out video reviews on the channel. We took a look at the UNSC gear pack, which was really, really awesome. And that video has been doing pretty well, so that's cool. Also took a look at Turret Takedown, and we've got a couple of other things coming up. And then I got my hands on the Banished AA gun, so I am looking forward to building that soon.
Be hanging out with Hyperius soon.
Yeah, gonna be killing all of the Spartan locks.
Right. Very nice.
R.I.P. Jameson.
No. All right. So I'll go really quick. I've been teasing the chess set since the start of the show, and I finally did it. Finally happened, and it was I posted it out there, so there's some pictures for people to see and enjoy. I did a UNSC. I tried to make it infinite themed, UNSC, and then against the Banished, and I was able to get a second Pelican, so I got 2 of my Banished hunters on the ends, and then I worked my way in from there. And I'm really happy how that came together.
That's
Long
awesome.
time in the works. And I'll probably refine it from here because if you're playing the game of chess, and I haven't played chess with it, but you have to, the way I have it set up is you have to put the feet into the pegs, which isn't ideal. It works, but I'll have to do some refining over time. But yeah, finally have that done. And then I did find. I've also been talking about this for a while. The Masters of the Universe, the latest wave of hero figures. I did find just a loose, almost full set loose in a random Walmart visit. I got everybody but Stinkor. So Stinkor is eluding me for the time being, and I'll track him down. But yeah, it was weird because the box wasn't even there. It was just like I found Fisto, I actually found Tila, I think, first, and she was like on top of a box on a random a shelf in the area anyway, and then everybody else was like on top, and then there was no like full on box. It was just the loose figures, and I like searched high and low for Stinker. I was like, he's got to be in here somewhere. Where is he? But I could not find him. So why don't we dig into the meat of the show? And I guess, Kevin, we'll be talking about what you've been up to this entire time, so we'll just kind of dig into there. Why don't you take us through? So you said you're the lead product designer at Mega Construx. How long have you been there now?
Next year will be 20 years now.
Oh man!
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So you've been through quite a lot then.
My whole life.
I've seen quite a bit. I've been working on Halo since the very beginning of the line too.
Oh, that's fun.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's cool.
Really?
Yeah.
And do you bounce around to brands much? I'm sure I know you work on Masters of the Universe too, but do they like move people on and then off and then back on? Is there some shuffling that goes on along the way?
There is within the design teams. We usually shuffle around designers from one project or one line to the other, depending on what we need, what the line needs any given season. Some seasons are smaller, some are larger, but we try to keep a core of designers that know the individual IPs. On those lines all the time. So for instance, I've been on Halo since that started, but other people will be on Minions or Turtles or all the other wonderful licenses that we have. And there'll be one or two like resource people, but for the most part, a lot of designers like variety. So if you do the same thing for too long, you get a little bit tired of it. But at the same time, it's fun to be able to have something to come back to as well. So and something that and in my case, it's Halo and Masters of the Universe. Yeah. But and also design cycles. The way that it works is that it's fun because you do it for a little while, and once the line is sort of wrapped up, you can work on another line for a little, for maybe a month or two, and then you come back to the first line because then we're starting a new design cycle on that one. So I think the variety is actually, or at least for me, I don't know about others, but at least for me, moving from one license to the other once in a while keeps things fresh.
Yeah, I can imagine. So how many people are on the team? I've always been curious, and maybe I don't know how much detail you can go into, but I feel like I have to ask the question.
Sure. Well, the Halo team has, at any given time, it has maybe between 4 and 8 designers. Okay. And it really depends on, like the last line, the Infinite line that we worked on for this year, we had to pull in more designers because just because of the sheer size of it, it was a bigger line than the last couple of years.
Big wave, yeah.
So I think I'm safe to say that there were probably at least 8 different designers that worked on the fall 2020 stuff.
Is it the biggest, the most people working on Halo out of the other brands?
That's a good question. I would be tempted to say no, because the preschool department is actually quite large. Yeah. But like if we take Mega Construx, I think Halo is probably one of the larger ones. Yeah.
So let's talk about Halo and your history with Halo. You've been on the line since the beginning, but go back further. Were you a fan of Halo before being a part of the license, or did you become a Halo fan?
I'm gonna start with a confession.
Oh no! Oh no!
Yours.
I'm not a gamer.
That's okay.
Yeah. The only console that I've had in my life is the original NES.
I love
and
that.
I had 4 cartridges for it. And
what did you have? Excite Bike? What else?
I had Super Mario 2.
Uh-huh.
I had RC Pro-Am.
Okay.
I had the first TMNT.
Oh, that game.
And I had golf.
I love it.
That
That's
was
like
my
a
dad.
classic lineup.
Nice.
That was like one Christmas.
Yeah. So my history with Halo really started when Mega signed the license.
Okay.
And the design team that I was on at the time, in I guess it was 2008, we'd been working on a string of projects that never saw the light at that time. So we were working on, like, we had the Marvel license at the time, so we were pitching prototypes of that, and they never really got anywhere. We were doing Dragons. We were doing some Pro Builder, back when Pro Builder meant like large off-scale vehicle models.
Like that aircraft.
Like the aircraft carrier and the battleship and the monster truck and those things like that.
Yeah.
And we our team had been working on these things for, I don't know, a few months, 6 months maybe, and for one reason or another, projects kept getting canceled, which is it's part of life as a designer. But that year we got like a particular string of them, and then Halo showed up on our desks, and I mean, I ate it up. I mean, I started researching what it was, and I mean, as soon as I started reading on what this was about, I was captivated. I mean, I read everything that I could get my hands on as far as books and game guides, and I spent afternoons and like entire days surfing the Halo Wikia, where I had basically 52 windows open at the same time because I just kept on clicking links.
So many rabbit holes. We tried to promote.
I can relate
I think
to that. Yeah.
Halopedia, they merged at one point, so Halopedia is the one now. But so much good stuff there. So, are you a science fiction fan?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I worked on the Star Trek line when that was in production as well.
Gotcha.
And I've been a Star Wars, Star Trek, and Sci-Fi fan forever, and a military fan as well. So military history as well is one of my. So I mean, history. Halo sort of falls right into that category, right?
It's right in your wheelhouse.
It's perfect.
Yeah. And so it took me. I kept watching videos on YouTube of walkthroughs and everything. So I get the feeling I've played the games without playing the games.
Yeah.
And it helped that when we signed the license, it was way back in 2008, and the lore wasn't as developed at the time. There was basically the first 3 titles, right? There was CE 2 and 3, and Halo Wars was coming out. So at the time, Halo didn't have. There might have been 1 novel or 2, or there wasn't all the comic books and all the ancillary media. So it was at least for me, it was a good starting point because it was still digestible, and it was a place where I could jump on and immediately like basically know everything about it through some pretty simple research. So
have you read all the books since, or have you absorbed most of the lore?
I've read some of the novels. At some point, there were quite a few.
There's over 30 now.
Oh yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, but I try to keep up as much as possible, even if it's just reading like the summaries and through asset downloads from our friends at 343 as well. So.
Yeah. So the Halo Bible. You've heard of it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's it. Yeah, it showed up on our desk. Our design team, attacked the first wave of sets, and I mean, I've been working on Mega Halo line ever since.
That's great. Yeah, it's interesting though, because you start with I'm not a gamer, but I've talked to a lot of collectors that aren't the same boat. Like they just like the science fiction, they like the look, they think it's a cool universe, and that's what they've built. It's like this transmedia thing that they've talked about is, it's centered in the games, but there's so much else to absorb if you don't like pushing buttons.
Exactly.
Very cool. So go back to early young Kevin when he got his first Lego set under the Christmas tree. When did that start?
That's a good. I started young. I mean, building sets have always been part of my life, one way or another. I don't know. My first memory of a Lego set was probably when I was 4. Maybe 3.
You have a good memory.
Wow.
I still remember sitting. Actually, I still remember sitting in the store, and there was a giant discount bin of sets. I guess it was like the end of the series or whatever, and they were liquidating them. And my parents said you can only pick one, and I picked the Lego Town crane, but the first one that couldn't even fit a minifig inside. So that's
wow.
Yeah, so it's like 1980. Something like that. Yeah. So building has always been a part of my life. I mean, I grew up and I grew up in the 80s, so it was Lego at the time.
Yep.
And I remember the old classic town in space and castle, and when I turned 12 or 13, I figured it was time to move on to more teenager things and set everything aside, but didn't take very long that I missed it. So I went through the dark ages and but came back,
everybody does.
Yep. And,
well, I don't know, Tom, have you gone through the dark ages yet?
Yeah, actually, I had a few years where I stopped collecting, and then I picked it back up fairly recently. So I feel like I've had that period, and I can say I'm past it. I'm through it. I'm done.
That's right. That's awesome. So I did like pirates and stuff back then. I had one of the big ships. I've probably told the story before, so I won't bore everybody with it. But it's such a big part of growing up, especially in the 80s, and growing up with kind of the boom of the construction sets. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah. And I mean, when I was in college, I would study and do my homework and everything for what I was studying. But when I had every little bit of free time was basically just used building. So so it's always been there in my life.
Did you have so before the dark ages, did you have like a massive collection that was set out? I have a distinct memory of going to my cousin's house, and him and his sister had like an entire room. Like they must have collected Lego City. It was like the entire room was Lego sets and the streets and all that sort of stuff, kind of like what Jang has now in his Lego City. Did you have anything similar to that?
I was fortunate enough that my parents would they set aside, it wasn't a room, but it was a pretty sizable desk in the basement where I could set up either my Lego town or my castle or my space base or whatever it was I was into at the time. And they always encouraged it, and I was from a very young age, I would build the instructions and then put them aside and build something else out of whatever the set was. So that was, I would build out my cityscapes and my dioramas, and most of the stuff wasn't stuff out of the box. It was stuff that I would come up with. So
that's awesome. So you've been customizing since a young age. That's great.
Pretty much, yeah.
Awesome.
Nice.
So give me the start of Mega then. When did that happen? So 20 years ago. How'd you fall into that job?
Well, through the fact that I love building, I actually met somebody who was a like-minded avid builder, and he happened to work at Mega at the time, and he still does. And I mean, his desk is 2 desks away from mine.
Okay.
Wow.
So he's been a friend and a colleague for a long time, and he told me that at the time that they were looking for a builder in the creative shop, the model shop. And the model shop, what they do is, if you've ever seen like those giant, the life-size Game of Thrones, for instance, throne at SDCC, or the life-size ODST drop pod at
Oh yeah.
at different events, for or the display at New York Toy Fair, where all the prototypes were set up. That team is basically, they take care of events, they take care of trade shows, they take care of any promotional needs that the company has as far as building and as far as displays. So I applied and I started there. I worked in the creative shop for 3 or 4 years, I guess.
Okay.
And then after a few years, around, I guess it was 2005 or so ish, I joined the design team, and I've been designing toys ever since.
And so you were local,
amazing.
like near the main offices? That's where you lived, or you moved?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was nice from a geographic standpoint.
Exactly.
That worked out pretty well too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm a local.
Cool. Matt or Tom, do you have anything you want to add before we dive into? I want to start with the new Halo sets, then we'll kind of bounce around from there. But do you guys or Gabe have any questions about background stuff?
I was just gonna say, what would be like the first set that you like really designed, just in your career, in the brand?
Yep. It was when I first joined the design team. It was an old Pro Builder set. It was one of the first Pro Builder sets that actually had a figure in it. It was the Hydra attack chopper or attack copter or something. I forget the exact name. I know it was the Hydra attack helicopter. It was basically, it was modeled after a real life or similar to a real life Cobra attack helicopter.
Yeah.
Okay.
It had some differences and a couple of functional spring-loaded launchers, but that was the first. It was a Pro Builder set at the time, and that was the first one that I built from scratch, and that I feel comfortable taking credit for.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, and since then, I worked on some more Pro Builder. I think I did a couple of the old Pirates sets, some Dragons. Obviously, Masters of the Universe, Mega Construx Heroes.
Best.
I can probably go through like a bunch of portfolios, and I've done a couple of like bulk sets, like the two the latest bulk tubs that are out there now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I worked on those. So there's a lot of things that I've worked on, and then obviously some Halo along the way as well. So it's hard to say, in the early days we would have like a lot of projects that were our own and we would work on them.
Yeah.
In the last few years, what's done is we've transitioned to more collaborative work. So there's for any given set that you can point out, there's probably a couple of designers that have actually worked on it, which is actually a nice change of pace, because it's a lot of input, a lot of going back and forth, a lot of discussion, and it makes for a very dynamic workplace, which is awesome.
Nice.
Tom, anything?
Yeah, actually, Matt's kind of prompted something. So, were you around when Alien Agency was being worked on, Kevin? Because I grew up with that toy line.
I was still a part of the creative shop at the time.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, but I was in the company. I joined the company the year that we launched Dragons.
Okay, cool.
Even so I was aware of it, but I wasn't in the department that designed it.
That's still so cool. Like Hangar 18, that set was my set when I was a kid. Yeah.
Yeah, that had the hidden base in it. Yeah, those were some pretty cool sets.
Yeah, they were.
All right, let's do it then. So we'll start with the new stuff. I'm curious how you guys have, since the new wave has been out there on shelves, and how's the team feeling about reception and all that sort of stuff?
We were hoping that the sets would be met with excitement.
Yeah.
But I think that honestly, I think that the reaction has been like even more than what we were expecting. That's
great.
Was a lot more positive than we were expecting.
That's wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think that fan reaction's been great. I mean, these last few months have been like, I think crazy exciting is the best expression for it. We when we set out to design the Halo Infinite line, we were, and I think I mentioned this in some of my gallery posts, but the goal was really to like go back to the drawing board and question everything that we thought we knew about Halo Mega Construx, and start with a fresh eye and really try to like reboot, I guess, in quotation marks, the line a little bit, and reinvigorate and refresh and make everything feel new and fresh again. And I get the feeling, or well, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys can tell me probably better than I, but I get the feeling that I think fans have picked up on that, and they're energized, and they're
for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
That's probably what I am happy with most, is that the team wasn't afraid to rethink what they had done for so long and to think of like a new, fresh way to do it. And I know that that's a big risk when companies or groups of people try to do something like that that's so familiar, but I think the way that it's been received is amazing, and I think you all pulled it off in a really good way. I mean, everything so far has been incredible.
The team worked really, really hard. We were fortunate because we had a little bit more time to work on the Halo Infinite line than we would usually. A typical design cycle will last maybe 6 months, 6 or 7 months, depending on if it's a spring line that's smaller or a fall line that's bigger. For Halo Infinite, we actually started brainstorming, I want to say, a good year before. Yeah. And we started brainstorming. I mean, we hadn't seen any assets yet. We didn't know what the game was about. We didn't have any information about that, but we started brainstorming about what did we want to refresh as far as features, as far as the building experience, as far as the maybe not so much the look, because that doesn't it's not dependent on us completely, but the feel of opening up the box and opening up the instruction booklet. And so by starting to think about that before we actually saw anything from the game, it gave us a pretty good push, just to get the ball rolling, basically.
So does that put you at like summer 2019? Is that when the ideation started? Is that what you're saying?
No, we actually started brainstorming in fall of 18.
Oh, wow. 18. Okay.
Yeah. Well, late fall. We basically we started brainstorming in small groups around that time. A small group of us got the chance to visit our partners at 343 on the West Coast for a couple of days in December of that year, and that's when they showed us the first assets, and there are some of their ideas and stuff like that. After that, we got to come back, and we took the Christmas break off, and then in January, February, then that's when we started onboarding like other designers, making the group bigger. And starting to figure out, okay, well, what does the line look like? But a lot of thinking had been done prior to, like, on the features. And one of the things that came out of those brainstorms was we decided very early on that the main feature we wanted to do was the 2-in-1 rebuilds. So we didn't have any idea what vehicles we were doing, but we knew that they were all going to be rebuildable into something else.
Where did that idea come from? Did that come from because I think you've done 2-in-1s before? Was it listening to fan feedback, or just something that you wanted to incorporate? Where did that idea come from?
I think it's something. No, I think it actually comes from a little bit of a few different places, but one of the things was fan feedback. We had done, like you said, some 2-in-1s. I think we had different things like combine the Hornet and the Cyclops into a chicken walker, and we tested a few things. The exosuits as well all have rebuilds. The Scorpion has 20 different configurations, right? So we had started sort of experimenting, I guess, with the idea. But the line, I think, gave us the chance to really formalize that and give it a structure, and really a big push, saying, okay, well, from now on, all Halo Infinite sets can have 2 sets in them. Basically.
That's awesome.
I think that's really cool, and I think it's been Really nice seeing, especially on the kind of social media side, then you guys actually taking those sets and kind of creating your own things. So obviously I know there's been a lot of posts more recently around the builders box, and some of the team taking that and then making their own creations as well. And then also, obviously, Kevin, you sharing that beautiful radio tower that I may have completely ripped off. I think just seeing all that kind of stuff is really cool, because I think for people perhaps a little bit more like myself who tend to more lean towards figures and like kind of things that are prefabricated, it's nice sort of being able to get a peek under the bonnet almost and sort of inspire our own creative juices to see what's possible with that.
Well, that's the goal, right? I mean, the very nature of construction toys is the fact that it doesn't necessarily have to always be a Warthog. It could be something else, right?
Yeah.
So and it's only limited by basically what you want to what you feel like building, or maybe even the number of parts in your bin. But even that, there's ways around. I mean, with a little creativity and some time, anything can be turned into anything. So that really goes to it's really a simple feature when you think about it, but it's the core of construction.
Yeah. How does that process work for you guys? Because I would imagine, this is my guess, you'd come up with the main build and what that needs to look like, and then you just take all those pieces and then come up with something else.
That's exactly how we proceeded. We told ourselves early on that that everything could be built using only the parts in the set. So you know, we wanted to make sure that it was accessible to everyone, and that we didn't require that you add 10 or 15 or 100 pieces from maybe what you have lying around, just so that, because not everybody has the same thing lying around, right? So
that's true.
in their collection. So one of the parameters that we gave each other was we have to be able to rebuild everything with the parts just from the set.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah. But it was an interesting challenge, because we wanted to be able to build something that could live in the Halo universe as well, and we wanted to make them cool enough that fans would want to take apart their Warthog to build a boat. And you know, we realize it's not for everyone, but at the same time, I think it adds another dimension. And anybody who happens to be troop building jackals, for instance, well, they can give it a try, because they have maybe an extra Warthog sitting around. You know?
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun to work on the 2-in-1s. It added a level of challenge, though, as far as the schedule, because even if we had a little bit more time, it did become like a whole other parallel line to work on at the same time. You know, we worked on all the main sets, and then we had to work on all the rebuild sets. So that was like, okay, there's 2 instruction booklets to do on each one. So it was just made it a lot more fun.
Do you work on the instructions, or is somebody dedicated to that?
Usually designers that work on their projects are responsible for their instruction booklets.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So everybody's trained in that. It's really important, I think, to us that everybody knows how to do a little bit of everything, and we do have people who specialize in different things, but I think part of the training is that you go through and you do a little bit of everything before you move on to being a specialist in anything, you know.
And do you have some sort of proprietary software to do the instructions within, I'd imagine?
Yeah,
makes sense. Cool.
I was going to ask, so the alternate builds really interest me, because obviously you've got the skiff where you can change it into a sort of Covenant fortification, and then the little walker, and obviously you've got the Pelican, which can be converted into essentially a fire base. So did you guys kind of set yourselves the challenge of sort of giving the fans some things that they requested in those alternate builds as well. Because obviously, being probably the person who's been in the community the longest, I have lost track of how many times I see people asking for like structures and that kind of stuff. So it felt like you guys sort of incorporated that into these second builds as well.
We probably had that in the back of our minds a little bit.
Yeah,
for sure. I think that one of the criteria that we gave each other, that we gave the team, was basically the rebuild had to be as different as possible from the main build.
Cool.
So, you know, like for the Warthog, what that meant was you don't use the wheels, or you just you remove the tires to make the boat engines, for instance.
Yeah.
We didn't want to convert, you know, the Warthog into like a Jeep. We wanted to make sure that whatever that second build was, it was as different as possible. So the Pelican just comes with so many pieces.
Yeah.
It was almost natural to say, well, you know, the Pelican turns into a base because we have the pieces to be able to do it, you know.
So we're talking about the alternate builds. We haven't been talking about the main builds. Why don't you? So we're curious about like the process of collaborating. And Jan helped give us a little bit of insight, but I mean, you're the direct contact for a lot of that stuff as you've been on the line. So maybe take us through the process for. I mean, Pelican's pretty nice. About like how that came about with 343. Did they ask you to do a Pelican, or did you say, hey, we want to do another Pelican? How does that kind of work?
It's that's a good question. 343, they provide the assets, and they leave it up to us to suggest to basically come up with the concepts and what we want the line to look like.
Is it broken up by like, do they say, okay, the first wave can be any of these things, like they limit it to you, or do they kind of throw a bunch of stuff over the fence and say, grab whatever you like?
Well, in the case of Infinite, you know, they were still very much working on the game because we got the first assets very early, so and those have changed since then a little bit, but I would say that they gave us what they could, or what was available at the time. So we built the line based on available assets. So they leave it to us to really come up with the line. Okay. And so we suggest, you know, we build it, we look at it internally and make sure that it hits like all the price points that we want to make and everything else. And it goes through several rounds of feedback internally, and then we show 343 again and say, listen, this is what we think would make a solid line. And then if they have
show them everything all at once. Jan said something about like that you have certain price points that you need to hit for each line. So I would imagine you're like, okay, the Pelican will work for a high price point. The Banshee will work for the lower price point. Exactly. That sort of stuff. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, and we've been doing it for a while, so we have a pretty good idea of what goes where. The Pelican was a little bit different because this is by far the biggest one we've done. I mean, previously I don't think we went over 100, and so the Pelican at 150, we felt we needed it in the line because of just the importance with the pilot and the I mean, in the first trailer, all of the action takes place on the Pelican. So it was a perfect opportunity to say, hey, we haven't done a Pelican in a while. We could redesign it and make it a larger set that would be a lot of fun to build. So
I'm so glad that you did. So glad.
It's amazing.
The gentleman I spoke of earlier, my colleague for over 20 years, he's the one who actually a couple of people touched the Pelican or worked on the Pelican, but he's the one who built pretty much the production version that everybody has in their hands now.
Okay.
And he worked on the very first one too. And I think he also worked on the NMPD, the NMPD base as well. So he's done 3 of the 4 Pelicans.
That's great.
Wow.
That's so cool.
That's really cool.
So did he come up with the idea of getting it to open, or was that a collaborative idea?
That was no. He it was a collaborative thing.
Okay.
Nice.
That was also one of the things that came out of our early brainstorming sessions about the Halo Infinite line, is that we wanted each set not only to be 2-in-1, but also to have its own feature. So if you take a look across the line, the mongoose has like the skateboard suspension.
Yeah.
The Banshee fires projectiles. The
Finally, right.
Yeah, the Warthog has the buildable suspension.
Yeah.
The Skiff has the front turning turret with the back with the knob on the back, or the reactor on the back. The anti-aircraft turret has the adjustable legs and the launching turret, or the launching projectiles. And the Pelican, well, it does a bunch of things. It has the retractable landing gear, has the ramp, has the cockpit, but the main feature was that it opened up. So
that's really interesting.
So we had the 2-in-1, but we also had we made sure that each set sort of had its own feature that it could own.
Yeah.
So that opening up that came from you guys back to 343, and they thought that was a cool idea.
Yep.
That's
exactly.
awesome.
That's
Really,
so cool.
That's cool. Yeah. What is that kind of like process like where you get to revisit something? Is it kind of nice in a way, sort of like, say for example, the Warthog, because it's iterated so many times at this point, is it nice being able to go back and kind of find a new way to approach it?
Oh, definitely.
Nice.
I think that for designers, from a designer point of view, we're sort of never satisfied with the final product.
Yeah.
That sounds bad, but it's not. And it's I think it's just like there's always something that we think we can improve on. So when we're done, so basically getting to go back to do another Pelican or another Warthog or another mongoose, it's like, oh cool, that the last one that I did was cool, but I thought of all this other stuff that could be cool in it too, and I get a chance to do it and to integrate it into the new thing. So
That's
it's
awesome.
I think it's since we're basically always trying to improve and improve, year over year, and just keep adding more stuff or making stuff different, then it's fun to be able to go back and revisit older vehicles.
That's great.
Yeah, that's really awesome to hear. Cool.
Where did the suspension come from? The on the Warthog.
That's a good question. That came from our collaborative effort. I think it was one of the features that we started with when we did the Warthog. The Warthog was actually a lot of fun to redesign, because since it's part of the line every year, it's sort of the one that we can test stuff on, or that we can. It's we automatically say, okay, so what's the new feature for the Warthog this season? And since we were going back to the drawing board for the whole line, we naturally started thinking about the Warthog first. And very early on, it's like people were saying, designers were saying, well, let's improve the suspension. Let's make it fun to build, easier to build, and a little bit more intuitive to build. And the other thing that we wanted to look at with the Warthog was the way of building it. We wanted to take it back down to the drawing board once again and say, okay, what do we want to change as far as the experience of building it? And I think I don't know who of you guys have built it so far, but probably all of you.
Yeah, I think we all have.
If you take a look at how we pieced it together in the instruction booklet, you basically build, I think, like all of the interior frame, and then you sort of keep on building like with the front and back hood. Then you have like modules for the suspension that you build separately and come and snap them on, and then you have like the sides that are separate modules as well that come to complete the look. And that was very much on purpose. That was sort of decided upon very early in the stage. We really wanted to give the impression that you were building the frame and then you were sort of like customizing the top.
Yeah.
It's a really neat way to think about it.
Yeah.
So well, it's more game accurate to the current hog too, which is great. So I'm sure some of that, because if you do look at the earlier hog, I think the suspension was similar to how those early hogs were, and when they made their design updates, it made sense to reapproach to have another look.
I'd probably say like one of my favorite parts about the Halo Infinite Warthog actually is the engine detail.
Yeah,
because I don't think any Warthogs before have had that.
Yeah.
And even though you might think of that as like such a trivial part because you're not really looking at it, but like putting it together and seeing like such minuscule little details being included, I don't know, something really tied it together for me. And I was like, wow, this is awesome.
I'm going to end up ordering another one after this podcast now.
I know. I'm getting the same feeling.
So I'm curious. I have so many questions, but let's stick on the current line. What about the sets that I like for my shelf? How did those come about? Had that been something that based off fan feedback, or did you have some ideas in mind? Obviously, the Energy Sword, the Forerunner installation, as it's called, and then the helmet. How did those come about?
Those actually came in a little bit later. So we started by working on the main line and then the secondary builds for the main line. And I guess the fact that we were rebooting the line and everything, I think we succeeded in generating some buzz internally, I guess, and the sales team and the marketing teams got excited about Halo, and I think they sort of said, well, cool, the main line's very cool, but now we need exclusives. And so
gotcha.
so a little bit later in the stage, in the development phase, we had a discussion with them, and they said, okay, well, we'll need exclusives for different retailers, and that's when those sets that you mentioned, Colin, came in to play. And we if you take a look at like all of the exclusives, there's basically the ones that we have at Target in the US, that there are the ones you named, and then there were a couple for Walmart that were the armory packs, or the armor packs. And then we also created some for Dollar General. And if you look at how they're made, they each have like a little bit their own identity. So at Target, what we were aiming for was to have something that was more collectible, off scale, no micro action figures included, but nice like shelf toppers and display pieces. And then at Walmart, we pushed for stuff that was more like customization based, so hence the armor packs. And Dollar General was more about building. So you have like not the fire teams, but the turret. There's the banished banished
the combat
turret. The combat units, there you go. So each retailer sort of got their own line of exclusives that had its own identity, I guess.
As you'll know, Kevin, on the kind of forums a while back, I remember you were teasing about marine customization changing in a big way, and that got me very excited at the time. And since then, we've kind of seen that unfold. And you've sort of gone with this approach where every single marine is an individual person, which is awesome. So I'm kind of interested, how did that approach come about? Was that one of those core things that you kind of discussed when you talked about revamping the line, or was it something that came along later down the line?
It's something that came a little bit later.
Yeah.
It's because figures usually are mapped out a little bit, just after we've mapped out what vehicles and playsets we're doing. But it was one part of the going back to the drawing board approach was basically saying, okay, Halo Infinite is really like the return of Master Chief, and we wanted to keep Master Chief like the star of the line, but give him troops. So although we do have a few Spartans in the line, I think we wanted to keep the focus on Chief and then have the Marines really back him up. So that's when we started talking, how do we include so many Marines in the line and not just have the same figure 12 times or 9 times or whatever it is. And that's when we started thinking, we did the removable helmet for the Halo CE in the previous blind bag series. So why don't we just give them all removable helmets? That means we can do different head sculpts. We can do different skin tones and different hair color and different eye color. And then then it was just a matter of, okay, well then why don't we give some short sleeves and others long sleeves, and then shoulder pads and not shoulder pads, and then big shoulder pads and small shoulder pads. And we also very consciously decided to design the chest armor so that it fit over both male and female torsos. So that instantly doubled the number of body variations that we could do. So so that was really the approach that we took, and then add all the pockets and the gear and the grenades and the knives and then the weapons, and it's basically just multiplying the number of variations by a crazy number. So I don't think we're done with the Marines just yet.
I am happy to hear that.
But while we're on the topic of Marines, I actually have an announcement. So there's been a lot of discussion on different boards about the fact that the Marines are a little bit taller than they used to be.
About to ask.
They've been eating their fruits and veggies. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of background on that, I guess. But basically, when we were looking at the customization of the Marines, like you mentioned, that was a big point, being able to integrate all those pouches and those straps and everything, and being able to make them as varied as possible. So we started looking at how to do that, and the decision was made to use parts from another line to use.
Would that be Call of Duty, perhaps?
It starts with a C and ends with a Y, and but although I should mention that we don't assign parts to different. Obviously, some parts are specific to certain licenses, but generic parts are just generic parts. And upper legs, which are the parts I think that are the guilty party in this this whole story. The upper legs are classified as generic in our case. So those are a little bit taller, and those were giving the Marines a little bit their height. So the decision was made to use those so that we could include the customization elements. And
which makes sense.
Yeah, and we were tooling a helmet and a belt and an armor piece, and the lower legs were new as well. So the Marine was getting already a lot of new parts out of our tooling budget, and so we opted not to tool the upper legs smaller because we preferred to use our tooling budget for the Gungnir head and the recon head, or the new Bulldog shotgun and
which are
stuff
all
like
beautiful,
that
by
would
the
be.
way.
Sorry?
I said all those molds are beautiful, by the way.
Oh, thank you. So we wanted to create variety in the line, especially that the line was quite big. So anyway, all that to say that so the announcement, I guess, is that we have listened to fan feedback, and in 2021, Marines will have new, shorter upper legs that will restore the balance of in the Force.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's
they'll have all the same functionality. They'll be just as customizable as the Infinite Marines, but they'll be back to their normal selves, and that will be for all the new sets starting in 2021, and the new production of 2020 sets that are carrying forward as well.
Oh, wow. Man, you
Oh,
just dropped a bomb.
Yeah. Honestly, you've just dropped two bombs there, because we were talking a few weeks back actually about the Scorpion and how that set kind of rolled out in its production wave, and then that was it. So it's really, really awesome to hear that you're going to be carrying sets forward, because I think for a lot of fans that just opens the door for them to get their hands on them a lot more. So that's really awesome. Thank you.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All of the building sets will be carrying forward into 2021. So the Warthog, the mongoose, the banshee, and all, the pelican. The pelican will actually be longer than that, probably.
Cool.
Will be all of
Awesome.
2021. But so lots of opportunities to continue buying those sets.
I'm gonna be
wonderful.
so broke.
Yeah, I know, dude. Oh, man.
So, any more figure questions, or we're on this, Dave? That's your wheelhouse.
Don't tempt me with figure questions. Okay. I guess my first figure question would be about heroes. Not any line in particular. It's just when you all are designing the heroes line, how do you deduce which, in the past it's been 6. How do you deduce which 6 figures you're going to include as opposed to other ones?
That's a good question. We usually discuss it as a team, and each designer sort of brings their ideas to the table and says, okay, I think this character would make a cool hero. This character should be a good hero. We take everything into consideration. We line them up. We design them digitally, and then we'll line them up like on a page, and we'll create a series of 6. And if we happen to pick like too many, I don't know, gray characters, for instance, we'll say, okay, well, we have too many gray characters. Let's they're all cool. Let's like keep one for the next series and one for the series after that. But let's make sure we have a green one. Let's make sure we have a yellow one.
Right.
Let's make sure that we have a Master Chief or 6. But no. But we sort of have a recipe of like, okay, we vary the colors. We try to make sure that we have a couple of bad guys in there, so a couple of either Banished or Covenant, or Prometheans, or whatever the theme may be. And then it's, we usually allocate a couple of slots to non-named characters, and sometimes those categories overlap. So sometimes it's a non-named Spartan, but it could be a non-named elite honor guard, for instance, which falls in the generic trooper category. So we have a very loose recipe, and then we try also to vary. Well, before the Infinite Waves, we tried to vary and like pull from all of the Halo universe. So you'd have an ODST from Halo 3 ODST next to a character from Halo Wars 2, for instance. Or like a character.
So like Halo CE Chief and Halo 3 Arbiter.
Exactly.
I guess I've got a second question in tandem with that one. So how, if at all, how much does community feedback influence designing that specific series in particular? Because I won't say any names, but I know one specific character that I've been dying to see from a specific trio for a while. But honestly, I mean, how much does like community requests or like the feedback on each hero series, how does that input the next coming?
We definitely pay attention. The thing is that we can't influence the next wave. We can influence maybe 3 waves later. Right. Just because of the schedule that or the timelines under which we work. So for example, if we were to look at feedback from the community now, we could do something about it in 2022. So
okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we definitely keep in mind that certain characters go for crazy money on eBay, and that's not our goal. I mean, we want people to be able to find these. We want people to be able to collect these and add them to their shelf with as little frustration as possible, or actually no frustration would be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely pay attention to what fans are looking for, and we try to integrate them as much as we can with the under the parameters that we're working with.
with what you're allowed to do. Okay, yeah, that makes that. Yeah, thank you. That's very insightful.
Cool.
I had no idea that the heroes were planned out that far in advance. I mean, that's impressive. Wow.
We're working on Series 15.
Are you serious?
Oh, whoa.
Oh my goodness.
Yo.
At the moment. Yeah.
I feel like you're just sprinkling in little things to make us lose our minds.
I'm just dying to know now. Oh goodness, it's gonna be a good couple of years. I feel it.
So let me ask a controversial question. So I know you listen to feedback and the scale. Has there been discussions of rescaling anything at some point?
In pertaining to what you mean for?
Well,
like
figures. Brutes should be bigger in universe, all that.
Say it,
stuff,
Colin.
Right? We've definitely seen that fan feedback online. The way that we see it, and the reason why brutes and elites and Spartans and Marines are pretty much all the same size, is that we want kids to be able to sit Atriox or whoever next to Master Chief in the Warthog if that's the adventure that they want to have.
Right.
We want Chief to be able to sit on the brute chopper and look right and look proportional to the chopper and not look like a little kid driving it. One thing that in the game and video game physics allows for this is that characters can be rescaled into the vehicle without really noticing. So if the Marine is on the gunner station in the back of the Warthog, he looks like a regular adult shooting the gun, right?
Yeah.
If we were to rescale everything, then he might look like a little kid. Because Chief would be taking up the whole interior of the cockpit. Driving, and so there are like internal scale issues that crop up when we can't really do what they do in the video game. So
it's a very delicate.
So there's that, and then we kind of like the idea that kids can mix and match their figure parts from be it from He-Man and Skeletor to Master Chief to Atriox to and that everything works together, so they can pop and swap the legs and the arms and the heads and everything, and it just gives them that much more flexibility to build their own characters.
My kids have done that with the Lego dinosaurs. Like their creations downstairs in their basement right now are terrifying.
Oh no! I was gonna say, you say kids do it, but my Spartans have routinely had to rescue the crew of the Enterprise.
Kids of all ages.
Right. We're all kids at heart.
Yeah.
Even the big kids.
A quick follow-up question. So I'm going to try to keep it a little bit more on Infinite, and then maybe open it up a little bit. We're running. This is going to be a meaty episode, but then I know we do want to touch on some special stuff at the very end too. So, so when you talk about the line, there's a couple, you call them bad guys, but a couple banished sets in there. Is there an effort to say, okay, let's try to build in, is it like 75% UNSC and then a couple bad guy sets in there? You guys think that through? I would imagine as well for each wave, or do you say this wave is going to be a lot of UNSC and then the next wave is when we're going to get our enemies?
We try to strike the balance within each wave of UNSC and enemies. So we don't have like a fixed ratio, but usually we try to have like a little bit more than half UNSC and a little bit less than half enemy. So, but that's definitely something that when we look at the line in its entirety at the beginning, we make sure that we strike that balance right off the bat.
Yeah.
And that's definitely something we appreciate with that. And I always love seeing a villain, even if it's just a villain character coming in a set, like the jackals with the warthog. It's always something that I appreciate.
Yeah.
Cool. We make sure we try to make sure that there is a story basically in every set. So
nice.
So and the conflict that having good guys versus bad guys in pretty much every set, the conflict that it creates or the story that it creates, I think is a good springboard for kids and for kids of all ages to appreciate.
Thank you. I feel included now.
I count myself as a kid of all ages as well.
I think we all do in this call.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything else on the Infinite line specifically? Matt, any questions that have cropped up for you?
I did have a question about how you take when like a set like the Warthog. How do you start to build that? Do you start with the wheels, or do you start more with the body and then work down, or what's like the design process? Where do you kind of start, or how do you get to that point, that starting point?
That's a very good question. I think you could ask 10 designers and get 10 different answers.
Nice.
Well, honestly, it's I think that the way that each designer approaches it is a little bit different, which is actually a very good thing, because it brings different perspectives into the team. Like if I were to do it, I would probably start with the middle frame. And then work my way out. But I know that some designers will probably prefer starting with special pieces like the wheels, for instance. Say, okay, well, that's the size of my wheel, so the rest sort of flows from there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that makes any sense.
All right. No, it does.
Yeah. Okay.
I do have if just before we move on, I do have one more question. So since obviously, I'm a customizer and I collect figures mostly. With the Infinite Series 1 blind packs, what made you all choose to, I guess, kind of sort of like how Infinite's a spiritual reboot, you kind of rebooted the blind pack series, and now this Infinite blind pack is Series 1. What started that? What started that? Why was that decision made?
Well, very early on, when we were planning the line, we made the decision that every set in this in this season's line would be Infinite. So we wanted to celebrate the game release that was in 2020, now in 2021, but with across the line. We didn't want to just say, okay, well, we're picking 2 or 3 price points and those are Infinite and the rest are regular Halo or previous Halo. We wanted everything to be Infinite. So I think that sort of translated into the rebooted name or direction, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So we'd been doing, previous to that, we'd been doing thematic waves in the micro action figure blind bags anyway. We had the CE wave before, and I think we did the Halo 3 and a couple of others that had the microships.
Yeah.
So this was okay, well, if the whole line is Infinite, we're going to do
Infinite,
micro action figures in Infinite. So and then the name just sort of came from I think from the fact that for the foreseeable future will be Infinite will be a big part of the line for 2020 and 2021. So we figured let's just number them 1, 2, 3 or whatever it is, and go from there.
Great. That's awesome.
Nice.
All right. Well, why don't we shift from Infinite to a little bit more general, and then and then we'll end on a fun discussion about future stuff. I do
Oh,
want
boy.
to start this conversation real quick about, we mentioned it a couple times already during the show, is fan feedback. And, everybody hates reading criticism and don't read the YouTube comments, right? But how do you curate that from a design, from your, I guess, your role? Is there someone within Mega that that does that research and then comes to you with some analysis and a PowerPoint presentation, or do you guys do that all on your own and then chat about it, around the water cooler, that sort of stuff?
I would say that a lot of designers are fans, and so we naturally go onto fan websites and reviews and YouTube videos and everything else.
Podcasts.
Anyway, podcasts,
Podcast.
exactly. Congrats on the 1,500 subs, by the way.
Thank you.
Hey.
So the team definitely pays attention to reviews, good and bad, and we're continually sending each other links of reviews from not just our products, but competitor and also just stuff that just pop culture and like movie trailers and stuff like that. So I shouldn't say too much because IT is going to contact me. But basically, we're always trying to learn and improve, and so and adapt. And feedback is a big part of it. And as a designer, criticism is part of the job.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, it's more fun when it's constructive, but even when it's sometimes YouTube comments or something, there can be useful information in there, and so it's really learning to parse the useful information out and trying to incorporate the feedback whenever we can.
Yeah, that's smart. That makes sense. But so you don't. So I guess to my original question, is there like a presentation where the business people are saying, well, the community's saying X, Y, and Z, so we gotta do this, or is it more just more of a personal effort on the design teams?
Since we exactly we share it, we compile it, designers and the brand team as well. So when we do show up with initiatives that sort of address that feedback,
Mm-hmm.
we find ourselves that a lot of us are already on the same page. It's like, oh yeah, I saw those comments, or yeah, I saw that thread or whatever. So I think that there's within the team that works on the projects, I think we share enough information that we're sort of always aware of. We try to keep our finger on the pulse of the community, in other words.
Yep.
Nice.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Very cool.
We do our best.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's really good to
good.
hear because, being part of the community, I try to stay positive for the most part in my feedback, and coming from a business perspective in my real life job, I kind of understand how it is, right? It's not just like, oh, Mega, they're the worst, and it's like the decisions aren't made in a vacuum, right? And you guys know what you're up to, or you have to do something because of the price point or something like that. So anyway, there's a lot of thought that goes into decisions, I guess, that I'm saying, and I think it's important for everyone to realize that. And in some situations, concessions have to be made for one reason or the other, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's actually it's one of the challenges that we as designers that we face on a daily basis is that part of you're saying concessions, we call it value engineering. It's basically but it's all about making choices to balance
Right.
the features we want to include versus the budget that we have to work with for any given toy. And for a designer, sometimes removing something from a toy that we're working on, it feels a little bit like we're cutting off a limb. But and one of my previous managers used to joke that you haven't removed enough parts unless it hurts.
Aw.
But
Jeez.
you know what? The truth be told, in my experience, this always leads us to creative solutions, and we never compromise quality. So if a solution to a costing challenge, for instance, is not like, the designers will work super hard to find the solution, but if it's outside of like all of the designers' control, then like I said earlier, at Mega we work cooperatively. So we'll talk to like the other teams involved, whether it's the instruction booklet team, the structural packaging team, the brand team, so there's always another solution to find that those extra few little pennies or whatever it is we're looking for to figure out the costing challenge. So it is a challenge, but it ends up, I think, it makes very cool much better toys, or very creative solutions, in other words.
Sorry, one more question on this, then I'll hand it off to you guys. Do you guys have younger testers? Because these are toys at the end of the day. But are there, is there a focus group of kids between the age of 8 and 14 or something like that you show the product with, or show the product to?
We do work with focus groups on occasion.
Okay.
It's not, if it happens regularly, I'm not always aware of it, but we do work with focus groups on occasion. Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to chat about here, Matt?
Yeah, actually, there was one thing, and it's just little customization nods that the building team adds to each set. Back in the day, there was the Arctic Snowbound Battlescape that had a little gold stud that was placed on top. And so I remember watching a video, and the design team was talking about it, and they said that they had put it there as a nod to, I think it was a Canadian hockey game. So I was just wondering if there were other sets that had customization nods like that, or little nods to outside things, and how that little gold stud came about.
Yeah, the gold, that's a good question. The gold stud actually was there as a nod to the Snowbound multiplayer map that in the game there is that coin or that medallion that's floating there. So it really is something that we took straight out of the game, and we included just as a hidden Easter egg for fans to pick up on.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I love that.
Awesome. Whenever we can, we like to do it, and we try to do that like across all our lines. But I think that was like the most famous one in our Halo line so far.
Well, I remember that in one of your it was like the Halo Reach infection sets. I think it was the one that came with like the little buildable structure. There's a screen that shows a model for a Halo Reach style Banshee.
Yeah.
But that was never released. And I'm wondering where in the world that print came from, or like if that design actually exists.
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I don't have the set in front of me. I'd have to check and see if I can find you an answer to that question.
Right. Okay.
I think I was going to say, I think the print might have been the Halo 5 set, Gabe, because I think they came out around the same time. Because I know the one you mean, it's the infection set with the singular turret, isn't it?
Yeah, with the turret. But I mean,
yes.
the picture definitely has a Halo Reach cockpit, because that's the big differentiating factor of the Halo 5 Banshee, is it's got that weird wavy style. But like when you look at the little screen, you can definitely tell it's a Halo Reach Banshee, or at least Halo Reach 4-esque. I don't know. I've just always been curious about that since the day I bought that set and I saw that. I've just been dying to ask someone where that came from.
Well, I'll look into it and I'll let you know.
That would be
awesome. I'll see what I can dig
so
up.
much.
Yep.
That's cool.
Why don't we bounce it to the community? We did post a question. We said we're going to have a special guest in our Discord and Facebook groups, and we got a couple questions in there. So why don't we see if there's anything we didn't cover? And again, we're running long. We may have to do a follow-up if we can pull that off. We would love to have an additional conversation. There's like a whole slew of topics that we could talk about yet. Lots of minifigure stuff I think that we could dive into, especially since
yes.
Kevin has been on the line from the beginning, right? And all that experience at Mega. So we'll hold off on some of those questions, but why don't we see what Facebook had to say, and then we'll toss it over to Discord.
Cool. So Facebook-wise, we had Manny Bautista, who commented on the group, and said he hasn't got any Mega yet, but he was interested as to whether there is any lore that accompanies the sets. And he also said whether there are any civilian characters or vehicles available, or figures to do with Gravpool and float fighting characters. Not so sure about that last one.
Has it been discussed at all, Kevin? Like adding a lore element, because you do have you have the official characters. Has there ever been? I think maybe at some point there was little write-ups, but is it something that's been discussed?
It's been. I think that was the kind of thing that would be probably eventually show up in like our instruction booklets. If you take a look, I think the forward onto Dawn, the instruction booklet, the first few pages I think have some lore elements.
Yeah, they do
inside. Yeah. So it's something that we look at every once in a while. But it's a good idea. So it's definitely something that we could look at for sure.
What about civilian stuff? Has that been? I mean, there was the NNPD line, which we talked about, kind of was a fan idea that you guys ran with. Has that ever been discussed?
Civilian stuff, a little bit. It's since it's very background stuff in Halo,
right?
Civilian,
right.
So it's not quite as top of mind. It's a little bit trickier, I think.
Yeah.
To integrate into the line properly. Yeah.
What else on Facebook?
And so we had that, and then we also had Storm Maldonado, who commented asking, basically, are we going to just be seeing kind of like core game vehicles like Warthogs, Ghosts, Wraiths, or is there an opportunity to potentially see other things? He mentioned a Wraith, but obviously we've got that, the Scarab we've got, but then he also suggested things like the Mastodon or the Condor.
Very interesting question. I think that when we plan out the line and we decide which vehicles and playsets we want to do, we don't limit ourselves just to the core. We look at everything that the Halo universe has to offer, and then we figure out what we need to be able to tell the stories we want to tell that for any given season. Like this, this year and foreseeable future is about Infinite, so probably not a Mastodon in the next couple of years. But after that, who knows? So it really is. We really do look at everything, at all the possibilities when we're planning out the line. So
you look at what else you can create besides the Warthog, right?
Yeah.
It's like the Warthog, and then what else could we do?
Yeah, exactly. The mongoose, the banshee, and the ghost sort of hover around that same category as well. But definitely the Warthog and what else, and Chief and what else.
Right. Yeah, especially this.
Gotta have that Chief.
Yeah.
Anything else on Facebook, or is that?
Nope, that was it. It was just the two.
What Discord have to say, Matt?
Alrighty, we got a question from Pope, but spookier, and he asks, "What is the process you go through when deciding how to build a new set? Do you make custom models from scratch? Do you get a general idea on how a build will go? Or do you look at a render and have some way to break down what pieces could make that?"
Excellent question. Well, it's a little bit like what we talked about earlier. I think each designer has his own, his or her own process. But I think most designers probably just prefer to just jump into the giant pools of blocks that we have at work. and just get their hands wet in those pools, so to speak. And so I think that the first thing that we usually do, since we're working off existing assets usually, and we're not creating something completely new, is that we build it out of blocks.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's the very first part is that.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Awesome.
I'm curious what that giant pool of
yeah, I know. I was like,
is there, like, is it organized by color and size and all that sort of stuff, or is there just a big vat that you gotta pull through?
Yeah, I joke about the pool of blocks, but it's actually a room, and it's it basically clear drawers full of parts, like from they're I guess 6 feet, 7 feet tall or so, and there's maybe 10, 12 drawers high, and 6 or 10 drawers deep, and so there's a couple of hundred drawers, I guess, with all the types of parts that we have. And they're sorted by type. So one section is all the basic parts and plates, and then the other section will be all the wheels and the wings and such, and then the accessories are in another part of the room. And actually, that room, I say it's one room, but it's one room for the designers, and then there's another equivalent room in the prototype shop where they build all the physical prototypes that end up in trade shows and are in our reviews. Yeah.
And then when you don't have a part that you need, then that's when you go talk to somebody else and say, hey, I need a part. I need to make this.
Yeah, pretty much, because a lot of designers actually also keep their own stash at their desk.
Sure.
Yeah.
All your favorite pieces.
Yeah, exactly. Well, some pieces aren't produced anymore or haven't been produced in a few years, and so sometimes it's useful to have your own your few drawers on your desk that you can keep some parts that you might prefer when you're designing.
Right.
Yeah.
All of those Master Chief figures.
Yeah.
Wow.
In my case, my desktop is, I don't have so many parts drawers as I have figure parts.
Yeah.
Love to hear it.
Wow.
I have part bins full of heads and arms and legs and stuff.
Same here, man. Same
Wow.
So often do you need a brand new part, though, a brand new mold? Is that pretty frequent when you're building something like, oh crap, I need a whole new thing to make this happen?
The first pass at building that we do, usually we challenge ourselves to build it without new parts.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, inevitably it happens that it's like, well, I could give it a better definition if I create, a cockpit for the Banshee, for instance, or I need a reactor, or I could, instead of building this intricate thing that's maybe not super interesting for people to build, I could save a couple of parts if I make a bigger part.
Mm-hmm.
So, combine, I don't know, a whole bunch of 1x1s with the side posts, instead of snapping 4 in a row. Maybe if you have a 1x4 with side posts, it might be more fun. So these types of decisions are made during the design process, but at the beginning we try to build as much as possible, and then when we do need a new part, then we talk to our boss.
Right, exactly. Need
Boss
some money
box.
for something.
Yeah.
What else, Matt?
I just want to say though, those build rooms with all the blocks sound like basically like heaven. So
Yeah.
Living.
Bury Matt in that room.
yeah, exactly. All right. Actually, Matt regret. There's a little regret there, huh? I had a really good question that kind of tied in with it. He goes, "Do you ever get burnt out? How do you handle that if so?"
Wow, that's a good question. That's a very good question. I think that, well, I can't answer for all the other designers, so I guess I'll make this answer more personal. I think it's normal when you're doing a creative job, well, any job really, to have highs and lows, but I think, like, in my case, the variety that I was talking about earlier actually keeps things fresh.
Yeah.
So I suppose, I guess yes, it does happen where, there's some days probably that are a little bit tougher, but just like any other work. But I think that the variety and the teamwork that we have within our team and within the organization, and just like the people I work with, I think all of that combine to make every day a little bit different. And so if there is like a harder day, then it's easy to bounce back. Nice. It doesn't take very long to bounce back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah. Well, in the end, we're all human beings. So, these things happen. But I mean, at the same time, I consider myself fortunate that I am that I do work in an environment that allows for that that rejuvenation and staying young all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they do say if you enjoy what you do, you never work a day in your life. So
That's exactly
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
That's the way.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm probably gonna butcher this name, but it's Gunabetor asks, do you guys ever think about remaking old sets, and will you guys ever make the 4-5 figure fire team again? They were great for getting Marines and Cubbies and Spartan teams.
Great question. As far as let's start with the fire teams. I think the fire teams, nothing is off limits. For sure, it's something that probably we can revisit at a later date. Right now, our similar sets, we consider like the mongoose, that figure pack with the extra build. In this case, it's a vehicle.
Yeah.
And then I think, there's a set that we're going to talk about maybe in a few minutes that might fall into that category.
You've done like the Sparrowhawk, and you've done the Scorpion again. So I feel like that is always on the table, right?
Exactly. So that it is on the table. I think the hawk, or the Sparrowhawk, or the aerial ambush, I should say, is that's really on the nose. I mean, that was really down to the box graphics.
Yeah, that was one of the originals.
Yeah. And that has a fun story too, because it's that was one that we wanted to redo when we were like in year 8, and we saw the 10th anniversary coming, and we said, that set we're doing at the 10th anniversary.
That's awesome.
That one was slotted in like 2 years in advance, like just the designers talking, because it's like that one was definitely going to be the highlight of the 10th anniversary.
That's great.
It was executed great.
Other fun fact is that the same designer worked on the original as the remake.
Oh,
that's so cool.
Whoa.
That's gotta be the coolest. Oh man.
Yeah.
I got to say, when I was building the aerial ambush, because I got the original one, and then I got the 10th anniversary one, and I felt so much nostalgia just going through the build again, and it felt like I had built it before, but it felt so much better. It was an amazing experience.
Cool. I'll pass that on, because the designer in question is the same one who built the 3 pelicans we mentioned earlier. And
man,
nice.
What a legend!
He is a legend in our building. He worked on all of the signature series for Halo except the Scarab, I think.
Cool.
So he's responsible for the Infinity. He's responsible for the Forward Unto Dawn.
Do you have any like Forward Unto Dawn in the back or something? Like, can I get one, please?
Any extras lying around?
We keep some sets. We keep all of our sets in archives, but they're like, I think there's only a couple of copies of everything.
Oh, so there is hope.
If you see a hooded figure running down the halls of Mega, you know it might be Dave.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. We have Chicken Tendy, and this is a really cool question because it kind of hits with my area of Mega. Is would you consider making a stop motion maker kit containing figures, pieces, and other stuff to help with beginner stop motion people?
Ooh, that's a cool idea. Well, you never know, I guess. Is my answer. It's a neat idea. I think I'm trying to remember if it's something that we had discussed previously, possibly, but I'll make a note of it. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, you guys have your app too, because I think. What do you use, Matt, for your stop motion? Do you use a special program, right?
I usually just use iMovie actually, so it's usually what I use. Yeah, it's not a very sophisticated program, but I've spent. Because when I started, it was kind of low tech, and that's kind of just how I learned, and it's kind of old and fits with me perfectly. So
yeah, that'd be a cool enhancement to that. I'm sure it's more than an enhancement, but something to integrate into that. That'd be
yeah,
cool.
Sure. Okay, one last question, and this is from Elsa94. Did you enjoy coming up with new Halo designs that are not in the video games or other visual media, like the Reap X series? Would you like to try and delve back into something similar, or even vehicles/sets mentioned in books, but that there are no official visual representation?
Like an owl. Ooh.
Like the owl, yeah. That's a great question. I think like the Repex. First of all, the Repex sets were really a lot of fun to work on. They for a designer, it's a lot of fun to be able to create your own thing. At the same time, we sort of had to frame them within the Halo universe. And the twist that we gave them was that we tried to imagine what the UNSC or ONI or that what Repex would do, how they would develop UNSC versions of Covenant vehicles. So if you take a look at what became the Kestrel, that's basically like a UNSC Ghost. And then we had the Walker that also like transformed into a pod or converted into a pod. That Walker is sort of the UNSC version of a Locust. So that was the approach that we took. It's like, okay, so they capture all these weapons and vehicles on the battlefield. The UNSC scientists and engineers take them apart, try and figure out how to work. But at the end of the day, they have to be able to replicate like the functionality of it with UNSC tech. So like the anti-grav or whatever it is that powers the Ghost became turbofans, and then instead of guns or instead of plasma guns on the side, you sort of have machine guns. So it's that was the angle that we were going with for Apex.
That's so cool, especially because it kind of ties in with what I think Halo 5 did with Warzone, where you saw all these amalgamations of UNSC and Covenant tech kind of blend in together. So that's really kind of neat, and it'd be awesome to see those vehicles show up in the game.
Yeah, that would be cool. And then, as for revisiting, I think right now for that slot or that idea is sort of revisited a little bit in the 2-in-1 builds. So we sort of, by creating the 2-in-1 builds, we're sort of allowing or giving the possibility to fans to be able to expand out their world with vehicles that are not necessarily canon.
Nice.
Kevin, I have a question. Maybe you can't answer this, but was the gun goose your guys' idea?
No, it wasn't. It came from 343.
Just wondering, because along the same lines, I know Repex was your take, and then I know that they made the Kestrel out of the original VTOL. So
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, and they integrated Repex into the canon as well. So, so that was really cool. That was a really cool element.
That's kind of neat.
Yeah,
you guys basically made your own little part of Halo.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's what we're all striving for.
0.1% of Halo.
Yeah, it is vast. Anything else, Matt?
That is all from the Discord. So thank you everybody that asked a question. Those were some awesome questions.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks all for participating. We'll continue to hopefully have fun conversations and fun guests for you guys to participate in. All right, let's end this with a bang.
Yeah.
Kevin,
you have some interesting, fun things to tell us about.
Yes. So yeah. Basically, the spring 2021 line will be coming up shortly.
Mm-hmm.
It should start hitting stores. I don't know when this will be airing, but it should be hitting stores within a few weeks, I guess.
My boy.
Usually early, there might be some stuff that trickles out before the holidays. Usually most of it is put out more in January after stores reset after the holidays. Right. But yeah, so what's cool is that there will be a new series of blind bags to collect. So Infinite Blind Bag Series 2. There will be a new series of Halo Heroes to collect. Series 13, I believe.
13, yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep, if my math is right. There will be a new Ghost.
Yes.
that will join the mongoose in the same spirit as the mongoose, in the sense that it will be the small vehicle at $15 with the 4 figures.
Absolutely gorgeous ghost model, by the way. The shell piece is really what sets it apart.
Yes, we worked hard to be able to give it some more realistic curves or more realistic silhouette, I guess.
Right. It looks great
with what's in the game. That one will include a feature. So, like I mentioned, all of the infinite vehicles, we make sure that they have their own signature feature. In this case, a little bit like the Banshee, it launches 2 projectiles. But what's nifty is that the Ghost actually, you know how it levitates in the game?
Yeah.
Well, the model that we built, the build, it actually sits on the projectile launcher triggers. So if you want to launch the projectile, you just press down on the Ghost and they shoot.
Oh, wow. Super creative.
Yeah.
This is why you all build the sets and we buy them.
I want to now.
It'll also have a 2-in-1 rebuild. So this one in particular, we'll have some pictures up on the gallery pretty soon, I think. But this one turns into a small banished, I guess it's a machine gun station or a weapon station and a barricade. So it turns into a small playset, a mini playset.
I really like the build for this one because I feel like it's kind of similar in many ways to the Covenant barriers. So you could like line a few of them up and have a really cool setup with it.
Yeah, you could.
And then lastly, there will be a $20 figure pack that we're calling the UNSC Platoon Pack. UNSC Marine Platoon Pack.
Oh my gosh.
So this pack will include an orange Spartan Mark 7 and 5 Marines to bolster your ranks. So, and each Marine will be kitted out differently, a little bit like what we talked earlier. So
that's amazing.
There's a variety of shapes and sizes and gear. There's a couple of riflemen. So there's a BR and an AR in there. There's a Marine with a rocket launcher, one with a communications pack and a pad, and one of them is a sniper. And then all that comes with also a heavy machine gun to be able to defend your stations with.
Well, if I may ask, you had mentioned the battle rifle, which had made me think of something. So what are your thoughts on now that Infinite itself is a mix of modern Halo and classic Halo, and now you all get to use your old parts? Like with the 2-pack, there was the old mold of the energy sword, and there's the old style battle rifle and different things. I mean, how do you feel about that?
That's very cool, actually. I'm partial to the old energy sword, maybe just for nostalgic reasons, but it's very cool to be able to bring back old weapons when we can, because I mean, we're the same way we plan out which vehicles are going to be in the line and which characters are going to be in the line. We also plan out down to obviously which weapons are going to be in the line. So when we're planning out the weapons at the beginning, so we make sure that we have a nice variety. Obviously there'll always be more assault rifles, but like for the rest, we try to sprinkle in a little bit of heavy weapons here and lighter weapons there, and other accessories as well. So being able to go back and pull something out of the vault, so to speak, and being able to like reactivate those weapons after a few years of not using them is extremely cool.
Will this Marine pack have the new leg mold that you talked about?
Yep, that's exactly right. So you'll get 5 Marines right off the bat that have the updated legs.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I'm gonna be even more broke.
Well, so I kind of like this. So if you did get a bunch of Marines in this last wave, you do have the variety in height too, which is realistic, right? So you just have some 7-foot tall boys in the
Yeah, I was gonna say it adds a little variation to your troops, I guess. I mean,
yeah,
that's what everybody likes even more is customizing, and even though some will be taller than Spartans, you'll have a little variation, which will look nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can you talk about the individual figures in the blind packs and the 13 Series 13 of Halo Heroes?
Yep, sure. So the blind packs will be it's an even split this time around. So there's 4 UNSC and 4 banished.
Ooh, nice. I've been asking for that on the show, so you must have been listening.
The 4 UNSC are Spartans, so they come in a variety of colors. So there's a blue Mark V from Reach, and a green CQC also from Reach. Yeah. And then there's a couple of new Spartan armors in there. One of them is the Trailblazer. That's molded in clear, so an active camo. And then the other one, I don't think the name has been released publicly, so we'll just call him Yellow Spartan.
All right.
For now. But that, let me see here. So that will be coming as far as the UNSC side. And then on the Banished side, there's an Elite Ultra that's molded in dark gray, so perfect for like the Spec Ops end of the spectrum.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What are they called? The Shadow. What's that?
Silent Shadow.
Oh, I was going to say Shadow of Intent.
The whole ship.
Yeah.
There's a grunt for army builders out there, and we molded them in classic Covenant purple, so he fits right in.
Which version of the grunt?
The Imperial.
The grunt minor. So with the breather, the face mask breather.
Okay.
And then there's a red Banished Jackal freebooter.
Can't wait for that.
With the red armor.
Absolutely love the
What's
Jackals.
his weapon?
Plasma pistol, and he has a shield. Yeah.
Sweet.
And the shield. Cool.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we had a Jackal in a blind bag, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Long time.
Yeah.
Been a minute.
And then the buildable micro ship is a Banished Phantom this season.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
You compare your Pelican from the other blind bag.
Yeah, well, there you go. So the Pelican was one. It was the first one we wanted to do, and then we figured let's do the banished version of the Pelican in the second series, right?
Then you can crash them into each other. Oh man, I'm excited to get my hands on these. So you said these are coming out towards the end of the year, you said, or into 2021?
Well, most people probably will see them early 21, so January. It really depends on, they're in production now, so it really depends on when the stores reset their planograms. I think historically some stuff does come out before the holidays, but it probably won't be everywhere. Hopefully it's everywhere and everybody finds them before the holidays, but realistically it's probably more January.
It'll likely be starting in the West Coast. That's the common trend with most of the sets.
If you're following the hunt starts out west.
So everyone go out and buy a bunch of them so that the new stuff has to be restocked in.
Right.
There you go. Matt's become your salesman.
Yeah.
I've seen some Battle of the Ark out there. I've seen like 2 boxes of Battle of the Ark. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Where were these? All right, let's talk about these heroes. Series 13.
Yes, sir.
Yep. So the heroes this time around, there's 2 multiplayer Spartans. So there's the Trailblazer, which is the new mold. They're the new molds. So that's the new helmet, new chest piece. And that's,
so you said there's the blind pack camo version of that.
He's active camo, exactly, in the blind pack.
Awesome.
Here he's fully painted. He comes in an eye-catching white and orange color scheme.
Nice.
With a DMR. And then the other Spartan that we have is a Mark 7, and he comes kitted up with a new chest piece that we molded, that we tooled. So he comes with a bulldog shotgun. He's blue.
Blue.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Is it a darker blue than the last one we saw? Was it in the blind bag?
No, he should. I think he matches. So you'll be able to mix and match. We wanted to make like the armor. He also comes with like different shoulder armor and a belt and stuff. So you'll be able to mix and match and customize your own Mark 7 basically.
Cool.
Oh.
Awesome.
Then we have another version of Chief, and I know it's our sixth version of Chief, but it's actually the first version of Infinite Chief that we've put available in Halo Heroes. Right. So we wanted to make sure that, especially for some people buy everything, but some people don't, and so we wanted to make Chief accessible. Exactly. So if you have an allowance and you mow the lawn, and you have $5 to spend, and you want Chief, now you have access to him.
Yeah.
Awesome. What sets him apart from the other Chiefs?
He has a new battle rifle. No, he has a decorated battle rifle. I'd have to go check. Honestly, I don't have the image in front of me for the deco. But we made sure to make him different from previous Chiefs.
Cool.
I look forward to that.
Yeah. And I've appreciated that with all the different Chiefs that there's been like mud splatter Chief and banged up Chief. Like I really appreciate that, especially when I'm stop motioning. Yeah, to like transition between them, it really kind of helps out.
Oh, that's a clever idea.
That's a really good idea. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And then there's two bad guys in the line. There is a new parts to create the Brute Chieftain.
Yeah.
Making a first appearance in super articulated form, I guess, because of the
yeah.
Oh my gosh,
so beautiful.
The previous one, I think, or one of the only ones we did was with the NMPD airbase, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we were actually very happy to bring him into super articulated form. And then lastly, we round out the 5 with the Elite Warlord, which is the new name, I guess, for the Elite General. So
awesome.
That is so cool.
That's a juicy line.
I do have one question.
Mm-hmm.
So usually the Heroes series have 6. Is there a specific reason why this one only has 5? Well, I was just thinking because I believe Series 12, unless I'm mistaken, I don't think there was any named characters in that one. And then in this series, in Series 13, this coming series, there's only one, which is Chief.
Yeah. So the reason for the 5 is that this series we had to rejig a little bit just because of the game delay.
That's what I was imagining.
So we didn't want to include any spoilers in here and spoil anybody's game experience.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to rejig this one a little bit last minute, but so that's the reason for the 5. And then
now I want to know who that 6th guy is. I'm like, which one?
I think the 6th figure ended up in Series 14. But I have to go. I'd have to go look at my Series 14 pages.
So sometime
just
next
teasing
year
us
we'll
with the
figure
fact
it out.
that you have those pages.
Yeah.
So there is a Series 14.
Yeah.
She's dead anyway. She gets killed off right away. So these are the sets that we're gonna see next, which is awesome. And we really appreciate you sharing that with us, Kevin. Thank you so much. Exciting times. We've had a big giant wave of Infinite sets that have come out recently, and now we get the continuation is great to see. And we've talked about Halo Infinite's the next 10 years of Halo. So you mentioned earlier in the show that you have Halo Heroes Series 15 on the books. So we're going to see lots of sets over the coming years, and it's an exciting time to be a Halo fan, and it's an exciting time to be a fan of Mega.
I need to go buy some more shelf space.
For real.
It's the truth. All right. Well, why don't we wrap the show there? Thank you again, Kevin, for joining us. It's been great, and hopefully we can have another conversation about some other stuff that we have in the back of our mind and in the front of our mind. I mean, we've been talking about maybe some more figures conversation, and there's lots of questions about that San Diego Comic-Con set that's beautiful that we all gushed about on previous episodes. So yeah, we'd love to keep the conversation going.
Well, thanks for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, why don't we go around the horn real quick? Anything you guys want to cover? Community stuff that you've seen out there, or just anybody you wanna promote? Tom, I'll start with you.
I just wanted to say a big thank you for coming on, really. That was all I wanted to say, because I think for me personally, it's quite interesting, because obviously I grew up with this brand when I was in my teenage years. So back then as a kid, it was quite easy to be like, oh, there's Halo toys. I can't buy them anywhere at the moment. What's going on? Like, I want to get all my Halo toys, and I didn't really have an understanding for how everything actually works. So it's been really nice through this show getting to talk to both you and Jan and kind of understand everything behind the scenes and get to kind of have the privilege of peeking behind those doors essentially and sort of seeing how everything goes in your world, because I think it adds a lot of value to collecting, for me at least, because now I can kind of look at that stuff when I'm buying it or when I'm seeing it on shelves and actually think, yeah, there's a story behind that, there's this amount of time that's gone into making that possible. So I just appreciate you taking the time out of your day to really share that insight with us.
Well, thank you. It was my pleasure and my honor, actually.
That's awesome to hear. Thank you. Matt, anything?
Yeah, I just want to say a huge thank you as well. And it's just amazing to hear just how big fans the design team is and how you are. And it's that design fandom kind of feel is really infectious. And so it's really nice to hear all the fan stuff you've had over the years with Halo, and it's just that nostalgic feeling of just talking about old sets that you guys have been a part of. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. It is truly amazing to talk to you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Gabe?
All right, I'm gonna give you another thank you. Don't let it go to your head. One more, but genuinely, as just like Tom, as I started collecting these, I think when I was like 9 or 10, and working with these products for so many years and watching them change and seeing them gain popularity has been something really special. And being able to actually sit down and talk with you and ask all of my most dire questions and get the answers to some things has been a lot of fun. But I really appreciate you coming on the show and talking to us all, and it's been a lot of fun. Hopefully we can do it again.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, that will do it for our show. Thanks for joining Builds with Blocks. If you like the show, feel free to support Podcast Evolved on Patreon. Until next time, evolved.
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 Evolve.
Evolved.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Smashed it.